Mansfield at about 6:30 p.m. For the joint board and commission meeting. Meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Board of Education, Putnam High School Building Committee, Library Building Committee, and the Facility Study Group. So we do have a lot of important people here. Also, we remiss at the last meeting to make sure that we had introductions. And for you who don't know me, I'm Peter Place, and I'm the mayor. And I'm going to pass it to my right.
I'm David Brodsman, owner of the Main Street Grill, and also member of the Economic Development Commission.
Good evening, Delta Berry, Director of Economic and Community Development.
Liz Thompson, I'm representing the Library Exploratory Building Committee.
Annie Garcia, same committee. Priscilla Falwell, Library.
Kathy Mulatto, Library Committee.
George Canjura, same committee.
Amber Lundy, same committee.
Tony Barrett, Elected.
Tony Falzano, Board of Finance.
Joe Nash, Board of Finance.
May Johnson, Board of Finance.
David Gedrow, Board of Ed.
Scott Benfick, Board of Ed. Mike Morrow, Board of Ed.
Denise Martin, Director of the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen.
John Smith, Selectman.
Alan Rawson, Facility Study Committee.
Peter Bloom, Board of Finance.
Doug Cutler, Town Administrator.
I'm Nick Longo, Facility Study Committee.
Nancy Cole, Business Administrator.
Bill Hall, Superintendent.
Mark Caswell, Putnam High School Building Committee.
Dick Loomis, Selectman.
Terry Blackmar, High School Building Committee.
Don, I want
Johnson, Town Planner.
to. We have some members of in the audience tonight that aren't part of the committee that we're thankful you're here. We appreciate it very much. With that being said, I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start the discussion on plans for the following capital projects. Report of the, and I'll have Doug give you a report of the capital projects working group.
The outcome of the last meeting of this full body was that we would have to put together a smaller working group. And that group met this week? Last week. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bonite, who can bring up to speed on what was the outcome of the meeting of the smaller working group.
What we discussed there in terms of, we have 5 projects to really, that we were involved with right here, looking at the future of Putnam. In no particular order, Putnam Town Hall, what are we going to do with regard to that? We're going to renovate it. Are we going to build this new at a different location? What are we going to do? Because that is a hazard. If you ever had a fire, if you've ever been in there and if you've ever had a fire, the fireman wouldn't go in there. So that's really a critical element right here, but it's not certainly the priority. We don't know what the priorities are. We're looking through the priorities. The Putnam Library either build or expand. George is looking at several locations right now with regard to that. We have the Putnam Armory, and this falls on its own right now because there's so many things that could go there. But we got to get rid of the first 3 or 4 different steps here before we know what we're going to do with the Putnam Armory. Putnam High School, I'm on the building committee, and that's, we're looking to renovate that as new. The committee is going to be meeting again next Wednesday, I believe. And we've met all our benchmarks in terms of time right now. We know what our cost is. Cost is $16,500,000 approximately. The next is the Quinnipiac Regional Technical Park with regard to the infrastructure, which is the natural gas, water, and sewer. So here we have 5 different projects, and what we're trying to do is establish a protocol so that we can have priorities listed on each one, along with a mill rate on each one eventually when we come to the conclusion. I don't know what our next meeting is, but we'll have more information, I'm sure, with regard to that at that time. So that's basically where we are right now.
I know there's certain things, maybe what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll bring everybody up to speed in terms of where the various groups are in terms of where they stand today based on the status of their projects or they're working with architects or whatever the case would be. I'll start out with the Quinebaug Regional Technology Park and Bridge. I'm happy to report that as of today, there was a requirement through the state of Connecticut, because we're using two sources of state funding, one for the construction of the bridge to access the tech park, and also for the construction of the regional community YMCA, that the environmental impact evaluation that was a requirement of the state before these projects go forward, the draft has been completed, and it's going to be notification of the draft being available is going to be published in the Connecticut Environmental Monitor on Tuesday, with information, the draft report being available both in the town clerk's office and the library, if it's okay with Priscilla. That copies of that environmental impact evaluation will be available in those two locations as of the 8th. And then it will also be online, in that the location where it will be available on the web will also be published. There's a 45-day period, comment period, that's required under state statute, and that brings us out to about April 22nd in terms of the completion of the comment period. Barring that there's anything glaring in terms of the comments that come back in terms of what was reviewed. And this is already, a lot of the information that is included in the environmental impact evaluation has already been vetted with a lot of state agencies. So it's gone through the State Historic Preservation Office, it's gone through DOT, it's gone through the Department of Environmental and Energy and Environmental Protection. So at certain points during the process leading up to this draft being available, they've already had their input. So what it will show basically is the various outlays of the park, and what it currently is expected is that there will be 20 lots, each with 7 buildable acres and 1 non-buildable acre, and also it would incorporate the location of the 40,000 plus square foot YMCA, regional community YMCA. So that's moving along rather well. Later on, after we've gone through the process of reviewing all the projects here, I have a sheet that has been prepared by our financial advisor that gives the what the impact is in terms of the various projects based on the net town cost, and what I was able to provide him with based on the costs that we currently have is the cost for the high school, cost for the library, cost for the technology park, and then the combination of all those projects combined. Again, the library project could both incorporate building on-site, their current site, expanding on-site, going to a new site at the north end of the shopping center, and if they decide to use the Armory, probably this figure could be used in all 3 instances. So at least that would be a good figure for the library purposes. And we already know the $16.5 million figure for the high school, and the worst case scenario that we'd be looking at for any the town cost on the technology park is approximately $3.5 million. So I'll be handing this out when we get to the point where we discuss on the agenda number 3, the timing and financial implications if these projects were approved by or before they go to the town meeting. So with that, Scott.
Thanks, Doug. At our last meeting, there was a lot of concern, and rightfully so, of how are we going to present the high school project to the community. And the Communications Committee of the Board of Ed developed a PowerPoint presentation. We have also developed talking points, which each of you will get. So I'll email them to Denise, and you'll get them digitally. And I also have paper handouts here. So let's take a look. Putnam High School, renovate is new. The first question that comes to mind is, why now? Well, the need is there. Building's almost 60 years old. Cost, bonding rates are at a historically low rate right now, as are construction costs. Also, excellent reimbursement rate from the state, 73.21%. The options that we looked at, it wasn't just a, hey, let's renovate as new and let's go forward and let's do this. We first took a look at all the options available. We said, you know what? What if we do nothing? What's that going to cost us? And we'll find out later on that that one was one of the most expensive options because there's no reimbursement from the state. It's a fix-as-failed method. Your furnace goes, you pay for it. You don't have to redo your gymnasium, you pay for it. So we also looked at closing the school and tuitioning out the students. And I'll be honest, a few years ago, I was kind of in that camp. It wasn't until we sat down with the facilities committee and actually took a look at the cost to do that versus the cost to either build a new school or renovate. And I'll show you the exact calculations that we used. It actually makes a lot more sense to renovate this new and keep the school in town. We looked at building a new school, and we also had our superintendent have informal discussions with area towns about regionalization. Let's take a look at good old PHS. How many are graduates of PHS? Let's have a show of hands. That's about half the room. How many have been back there in the last 10 years? Yeah, most of you guys. Well, if you haven't been back there, let's take a tour. From the air, looks kind of impressive. About a 90,000 square foot building, originally built back in the 50s. And you know, the structure itself, as the building committee knows, is in actually pretty decent shape. Their walls aren't falling down, the roof's not collapsing. It's just a very outdated and worn out school, but it's been maintained very well. From the front of it, we see good old PHS. Inside, a few issues. We have a few leaks. What's causing the leaks in the ice dam? Lack of proper insulation. The pitched roofs are in excellent shape, but the flat roofs, how do they say, not so much. A lot of leaks, a lot of issues, definitely need to be addressed. The labs in the classroom probably were around when you and I were back in school. Yeah, brings back some fond memories. Upstairs, the HVAC, or actually just the heating system, you're not supposed to have a big dip in here. It's supposed to be open so the air will go through. It has some issues. There are currently some areas of the building with new windows and some area with not so new windows. On the inside, some of the windows have failed. The hallways, they look 1950s circa. When you look a little closer at them, we have some issues. And I'm not sure, but those probably are asbestos, but we're not sure. I don't know about you guys, but I probably would. That's an unretouched photo. Up in the attic, a few areas of leaks. So, what were our options? Well, we actually looked at the architect took us through the different steps. And again, as I said earlier, to do nothing because of the no participation by the Bureau of School Funding, actually the most expensive to do. The next one that was a little bit cheaper, but not much, was a systematic plan to renovate, but again, very little school funding by the Bureau of School Funding. So we got down to the renovate is new with an addition, and that's what the building committee recommended. The Board of Ed just ratified that vote, and that's the direction we decided to go. So what's the net cost to the town? Well, it's in a bunch of phases. The first is to renovate the school and with a new gymnasium. Our net cost is $11,600 and change. We're getting a 73.2% reimbursement rate. If you do the math, that means we're getting a $43 million renovation project at 73% off. Moving the PALS program. What is the PALS program? It's the Putnam Alternative Learning. It's currently housed in the building at Recreation Park, next to where they keep the tractors and equipment and things like that. The idea is to move the PALS program up to the high school. Also, the superintendent will talk a little bit later about a medical pathways program. And we all know about the issues at the town hall. We had factored in moving the superintendent's office to the high school area because we get a reimbursement. Not the 73.5 or 73.2, but we get about 50% of the 73. But it would cost the taxpayers less and free up some space. So that total number equals a net cost to the town about $16.5 million. Conservative figures were used. In that 16.5, there's a $2.5 million allowance for hazardous material. We don't anticipate running into that much hazardous material, but it's there if we need it. There also has to be a contingency for all projects, and that's 2.6 million. Now, I might sound like a used car salesman, but trust me, the 16.5 number is going to be less. I just don't know how much less it's going to be. But a good thing to look at is a little bit of history. A few years ago, we went to the town and asked for a new roof for the middle school. We had to calculate it with the architect at a cost of $2.1 million. The project, when it went out to bid, came in at $1.2 million. So I'm not telling you that 16.5 is going to come down to 8.5, but I will tell you that it's going to be less than 16.5. So the other question was, why not just close the school? Well, we found out that it was a higher long-term cost, lack of control, both in your cost of education and in your educational programs. And we all read in the paper, tuition. I read an article a couple of weeks ago. One of the local schools was talking about a 4.6% increase in tuition for the kids. Well, guess what happens? If you don't have your own local high school and you're sending the kids to a high school, you have to write that, the town has to write that check first, whatever the high school tuition is, and then you have to balance your budget on the backs of the elementary and middle school kids. Also, the educational programs. If you send your kids to another high school and they cut sports, they cut art, they cut music, you don't have a say in that. You're still just writing the check for the tuition. And Mr. Hull is going to talk a little bit about the unique opportunities that we feel we have here at PHS. Let's take a closer look. First thing we did is have an independent company do a 10-year enrollment projection. The numbers, the highest number in the next 10 years is 358 students. So what we first did is for 10 years plugged in those numbers. And then what I did is took the average of these 10 for the next 20 years. We're financing the project over 20 years. We looked at a town that would be able to take all of our students and ask what the tuition would be. Then, simply, so this part's simple math. Number of students by the tuition, here we go. We factored in on all of our numbers a 2% increase. So, pretty conservative. We factored in what the transportation cost would be to bring these kids to the outlying school. And this one, special education. Special ed changes by the day, okay? But what we did is took a snapshot in time. Currently, when we did this, we had 48 students in the high school that had some level of special ed, okay? We looked individually, we had our special ed director look individually and see what the outsourcing cost would be for those 48 kids. And that's what happens when you send your kids to a receiving school, it's all outsourced. So right now, we actually have more kids with higher needs than this right now, but what we did is took a snapshot in time. And then we factored in for the first year, if we did close the high school, what unemployment would be. And we didn't just take all the teachers and say they're going to go on unemployment. We actually did a systematic approach saying that if you're a science teacher or a math teacher, if you're in high demand, you're probably going to get a job like that. Unfortunately, if you're an art teacher or an English teacher, you're probably going to have to wait a while to find a job. So we came up with what it would cost per year to tuition the students out. And then we compared that to what it currently costs to run our high school, and then factored in the full $16.5 million at 3.5%. And these numbers are going to be identical to what Doug showed you. Earlier in our calculations, I just did a straight line amortization, but this is a bonding amortization, so you'll see that it actually costs you more up front and less as you go down. So we looked at the cost per year and compared it to tuitioning the kids out. With the bond amortization, you'll notice that the first 3 years, it actually will cost us more to renovate as new than if we had tuition the kids out. But in years 4 to 20, you're saving. When you total up to 20 years, you're saving about $9.5 million. But you know what? The building's going to last more than 20 years. Our current high school, 60 years old. So when you go to year 21 and you retire that bonding debt, you're saving an average of $1.8 million per year going forward. Peter, yes?
Yeah, you're using a very conservative bonding rate.
Yeah, that's a high
Just so
rate.
you know, if
Yeah.
we went out today.
We could
that
probably
would-
get in the twos.
Well, 1.5 to 2.
Yeah, so again, all these figures, the worst thing I don't want to do is come in with a number that's too low and say, oh, well, geez, I had to go back and ask the town for a few more dollars. No. I'd rather tell you up front, hey, this number is going to be a little high and pleasantly surprise you, if you will. So then we factored in the mill rate impact. In other words, what this number would be on the mill rate. In the next slide, this is our bond amortization that we got. And the next slide, I think, really hits home. The average taxpayer probably doesn't know what a mill is, doesn't really care what a mill is. He really cares, what's the check I have to write every month or at the end of the year for my taxes? I went on the assessor's website, picked an average house. It might be one of yours, I don't know. It's up on Bebo Street, I think, in the north end, or Grove Street, north end. It's a $156,000 ranch, assessed at $1,099. Our current tax rate is 14.94, just the town tax, not the special services. Current taxes at the 14.94 is $1,642 a year. As we went back in the previous slide, you'll notice the bonding impact was from 1.3, the mill rate impact was from 1.3 to 2.24. So I took those increases, 1.36, 2.24, and your taxes would be between $1,776 and $1,888, or an additional $134 a year at the low end, $246 on the high end, an average a little under $200 a year for that house. Now, obviously, if you live in a house that's a little bigger than this one, you're going to be paying more in taxes. If you live in a house that's a little less than this one, you'll be paying less in taxes. So, that brings us to the question. I talked earlier about the unique advantages of a Putnam High School education. What are we talking about? Bill, can you help me out here?
Sure.
Care to tell the audience? Yes.
Before he starts on that, just out of curiosity, is the 20-year memorization something that you chose or is required?
It's a standard.
It's
required. You can't put it out 30 or 40 years.
As I'm saying, at 1.2 money, you get as much as you can for as long as you
Sure,
can.
exactly. So, all right, let's talk about the advantages of a PHS education. This one? No. Where do we want? There we go.
Putnam High School was a Concan award winner in 2010 for academic progress. We think it's a small learning community. It is not a large high school. We think that's an advantage. But it's a comprehensive high school. So we do individualized learning, we have extracurricular activities, and we have rigorous academics. And a small, personalized community. Literally, where everyone knows your name. Our principal knows every kid in the high school. Most teachers know every kid in the high school. I'm an alumnus of NFA. There's 3,500 kids in NFA. My kids went to NFA. It's a wonderful school. However, not everybody knows their name. You are a number. I remember when I went to UConn, a big university, I was in the middle of a bureaucratic nightmare about student loans, and a friend of mine was really frustrated. And I said, what are you talking about? This is the way it is in a large school. He came from a small school where somebody helped him with materials. That's what we do at Putnam High School. We have a number, in fact, we have 9 AP classes, higher level classes. For those people who don't know what AP is an advanced placement class. It's like taking a college class in high school. If you have to take a standardized test, at the end of the year, if you get a 3 or more, you get college credit for that AP class. We have 9 AP classes, which is unheard of. Most schools only have maybe 3 or 4. Our kids do quite well, in fact. If you looked at our AP pass exams, we didn't want to show up any neighbor in high school, so we just put 1 south, 1 north. These are actual places. Wheeler's not in our area, in our neighborhood, so we can talk about Wheeler. It's another small high school. It's about a high school of 220 students in North Stonington. Putnam had 36 students passed AP exams, pulled college credit before they went to college. In 2011, in 2012, there was 38. We do individualized learning. We have a freshman academy, which is a school within a school. We progress monitor. We have a positive school culture. We have Edline is a place that all parents can check grades of kids. Edmodo is a technology where our classes take place on the internet, and kids can go and have a conversation with their teacher at any time on the internet and have a conversation back and forth. Papers are posted, conversations take place, teachers take their lectures and classes so that kids can go on after hours and take a look at it. It's unique, and we actually have teachers who go out and train other people on it. We have plenty of sports. We have a no-cut protocol. It's not a policy, it's a protocol. If a kid wants to play on the baseball team, no matter how good they are, they suit up and they're on the team. Doesn't mean equal playing time. It means you're on the team. Playing time is determined by basically how well you practice. But all kids have an opportunity to be on the team. Why? Why do we think that's important? Every kid in large schools, because they go through a cut process, if it's a baseball team, think they're going to be the next Dare Dream. Or if they're on a basketball team, think they're going to get a scholarship at UConn. That's not always going to happen. And what we want is to build a community where kids have a positive experience in sports, and it becomes a lifelong learning opportunity for our kids in a positive environment. So people say, well, what about your sports? It can't compete. Well, 72% of our kids take part in an after-school activity. That's unheard of in any high school. 19 of our athletes were selected to all conference teams. This is last year's data. 2 teams won conference titles. We had 4 teams qualified for state tournament. We had 1 athlete also receive all-state honors. We have a host of activities, performing arts. Our band last year participated in a competition in Virginia and won against nationwide teams. We have service learning opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about that. We team up with Dave Kimball. We do Relay for Life. And Mr. Pentak talked about the medical pathways. This is a new school within a school that we plan to have. It's really a curriculum pathway emphasizing higher level science and math courses culminating in job shadowing and internships opportunities in the medical field. We have the hospital here. It's a partnership between us and the hospital and other medical areas in the area. A neighboring town actually is voting tonight to make Putnam High School hopefully to make it a school of choice because they're interested in the medical pathway. So we think that 358 may increase in size over time because when we did that enumeration for enrollment, this was just on the drawing block and we really hadn't fleshed it out as much as we should have. So we think it's a wonderful small learning environment for our kids. The most important thing that when you send kids out to other towns, you don't have any control over educational programs. You don't have any even over cost, what Mr. Pendak was talking about before. So, any questions?
Joe, why don't you talk a little bit about the curriculum from where it was when you started here? Because we hear a lot of people say Woodstock Academy has the best curriculum around, has 1,000 students and whatnot. And I know we've come a long way since then, and maybe you could share a little bit of that with us.
Well, Putnam High School is Putnam High School. Our curriculum, by the way, 38 states are now going to all have the same curriculum. So to compare one high school to another high school is not going to happen. There's a thing called Common Core. 38 states, Connecticut's one of them, have agreed on the same curriculum. Like it or not, the standards will all be the same on all 30, in all of those 38 states. So we'll have Common Core. We are accredited by the New England, the Association of New England Schools and Colleges, just like any other high school in the area. We are writing new curriculum. We are writing advanced curriculum. The medical pathway will have higher level science and math curriculum involved. Much of our higher level stuff is geared towards AP because it has to be. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, but I mean, we have had, what I've noted is a tremendous improvement in the curriculum from like 6 years ago versus even today.
Look, you say that, I think my board's here. So you want to say that one more time?
How do we get this information out to the public? Again, in the real estate market, I can't get a doctor, a lawyer, or a business person coming into the area that's willing to buy a house in Putnam and spend that money on some of these subdivisions, $250,000 to $400,000, because of perception. How do we get this out there?
Well,
Why don't we leave that, we'll wrap this up as to how we're going to go forward with this, because this won't only be your project, it will be other projects that we'll be talking about. So why don't we leave that for discussion as to how we proceed from here?
Well, we do have an answer to that.
I understand you do. Don't lose it. You know.
So you won't lose it.
I'm going to go to George Stangeris next for the library, and then I'm going to go over to Alan Ross on the. I'm sorry, Scott.
Yes.
Are you all set?
Yeah, I just got to get this to the.
Okay. And then I'm going to go to Alan Rawson for the public facility study. So George, library.
I was actually hoping to go to Alex.
Okay.
First half of this, because we don't have the PowerPoint. We're nowhere near that far along in our project, but you know, from the last meeting, again, this is just bringing it, from the last meeting of this group, at least kind of opened our eyes in terms of, you know, trying to learn our locations, and we realize that our current location is probably too small. If we build out that location, we're going to build out the entire location. There's no room for future growth. There's no room for windows unless you want to look at the side of the shopping center. So it's probably not a good environment for the kids going there and going to the adults and enjoying the space. So, that being said, we have 3 site plans currently on locations in town, including our location. And again, one of the sites we don't, and actually 2 of the sites we don't own, so how do we get there? You know, for instance, the site next to the synagogue is a site that I really like, but how do we get $330,000 to secure the site while we go through the referendum and try to get this to pass? So that's a probably is not going to be focused on. But we, as a group, have to get ourselves probably in the next 3 weeks to 3 weeks to focus on our site. So again, after the last meeting, the group decided to relook at the article. Probably, if the cost standpoint, probably works out the best. Location has got some pros and cons that can be determined. The architect is coming next week, in 2 weeks, with a site, with a layout plan of the building and help with the library. So we'll look at that, and I think our choices are being narrowed down. But the positive part of these choices are that, you know, we have $1 million coming from the state theoretically, and then we have our current library site to put on the market and bring revenue. I don't know that we get it. There's a 2007 or 8 appraisal site at $700,000. So the site's inadequate, so we'll be active for somebody else to bring some revenue in and help us out next week. That's about it. Any questions?
Thank you, George. Alan, facility study.
Okay, the facility study committee at this point is a month short of being a committee for 2 years. And our charge early on was to look at the armory and with the idea of possibly using it as a town hall, community center, originally we looked at it in that respect. We kind of were on hold for a while to see actually what happened with the high school project, because if they did decide the high school to regionalize or build a new school, then that building would become available for a town hall, possibly library, community center, all in one place. So we kind of sat there for a while. Just some history, this is the third of these committees that I've been on since 1998. And basically they all were to try to do something to replace the town hall. At this point, I was glad to hear last week George say that the Armory might be a choice for the library, because I think it would be a great place to have the library in the community center, which is what it is with the schools. But prior to that, we were approached by the WPCA to use that facility for a maintenance facility, since they don't have a maintenance facility with the construction of the new sewer plant. So they looked at it and found they didn't have money for it in their budget, so they kind of kicked it back to us. In the meantime, we've been looking at other possible sites to replace the town hall, possibly the library also. The last thing we looked at was the provincial house. We toured that 2 weeks ago, I believe. And again, amazing building, very large, bigger than Putnam High School, 94,000 square feet, I believe. And it could be something for us. We would have to be a shared facility. The sisters aren't ready to abandon that. It could certainly consolidate in probably 1/3 of the building instead of using the entire facility. But at this point, our committee is, I think it's probably going to be recommended tonight that we probably meet sometime with the library committee to see if they want to move forward to at least look at beyond.
Well, again, in less than 2 weeks, Wednesday, the 13th, will be meeting with the architect, and he's going to have a layout of what the library would look like in the library. So, and then I also on Monday, send that to the library board, because when we first started this, people love the library, people love it where it is, but it might not be, it's up for that space. So it took a while, I think, for all of us to get around that.
Sorry, I was just curious, do we have an educated guess about what Janice is going to find when they do the survey? The armory? The floodplain issue?
Oh, I think there's some.
It should be done within 2 weeks, though.
Do we have an educated guess about how?
My educated guess, it's on the floodplain.
It is the committee's opinion, majority of the committee's opinion, I believe. I speak for everybody, but everybody's looked at it, and most of us believe that it's outside the 100 years flood.
Any other questions of any of the respective committees that are working on these projects before we move on?
One question, on the question of when the architect comes back, he's going to come back with costs also.
Once we determine what site we're going to concentrate on, and then we'll develop the plan further, include a complete price structure.
Are you going to have enough money with the 50,000 that is allotted for the study?
Yes. Actually, it's 40,000.
How much do you need?
That gave us 40,000.
But they did a pretty good job negotiating.
But in reality, our contract right now is 30,000, so we do have we have room to if we need to study other things or whatever. It's been a very fluid study at this point.
Moving on, before does anybody else have any questions before we move on? One of the things that the smaller group was looking into is how do you evaluate and prioritize capital projects?
And just the state of the art in terms of what municipalities do from a municipal finance perspective. There are certain criteria that they usually use in determining urgency of need or degree of urgency. And I think, Scott, your presentation did a pretty good job in terms of addressing all these criteria. And I'll just briefly go through these. So keep these in mind as we go forward in terms of whether it's the Armory project, whether it's the library, whether it's the school project, that if the criteria is met in terms of these, the 7 criteria are met to a certain degree, then you have a determination as to the value of the project moving forward. So the first one, and probably the most important one, is does it meet legal mandates or legislation? So is this a project that is required by state or federal statute, court order, or regulation, or a project that moves a local government into further compliance with a mandate? And, you have certain mandates from an educational standpoint, special ed, that the Board of Education has to meet. Does it remove or reduces hazard? A project that eliminates or reduces obvious hazards or threats to public health and safety, and I think you touched on that. Efficiency. Does it replace equipment or a facility that is obsolete or would be too costly to repair, or maintains and better utilizes existing equipment and facilities? Again, I think you addressed that. Standard of service. Maintains or provides existing standard of service in developed areas, or provides comparable standard of service in a newly developed area. Number 5, and this is more important in terms of the technology part, but does it support economic development or economic advantage? A project that directly supports or benefits economic development and town's economic base, job growth, and increased local government revenues, and by increasing property values. And I would say, from the standpoint of the school project, that also fits into that in terms of preparing our students for the jobs of the future and giving the town, hopefully, that we would be able to provide the jobs here in town that the school would be able to produce through their students. Number 6 is improves efficiency. A project that lowers operating costs and increases productivity. And number 7, facilitates new services or convenience. A project that makes possible new services or programs, or is for the convenience of users and staff. So if you use those types of criteria, and I'd be glad to get these to the various committees, if you kind of keep that in mind as you go forward in making the case that you eventually will make to the townspeople, you can sort of use those as the criteria that you need to address. And I think in terms of Board of Education and the presentation tonight, you touched on many of those criteria in terms of what you would do in terms of prioritizing of a capital project. So with that, I'd like to go around quickly and give me a timing of when you want each of the projects to go to town meeting and then eventually for start of construction. Is that a bit? Can we do that tonight?
So we'd like the school to be brought to the town meeting, I don't know, next week, you think? But no, actually, to answer Dick's question, part of the thing we want to do is get a date for a referendum, okay? And once we have that date for a referendum, we've developed talking points, okay? And we've also developed a plan of how are we going to get the message out, okay? And some of the places that we're going to visit, we're putting a team in place. But Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, elderly housing, we're also looking at civic groups such as Little League, anything with parents that have smaller kids. Because, let's face it, anybody, 5th grade and below, they're the ones that are really going to benefit. To answer your question a little more directly, how are we going to get the message out to the community? Our communications committee has developed a brochure about our schools, and the plan was to drop them off at realtors' offices. So we can probably, at least try to change the perception of Putnam High School. Obviously, if the project gets voted in the affirmative, and we have a new plan to renovate as new, it's the build it and they will come approach. And I don't think we have to look back too far to, I call it the dark days of Putnam High School. 4 or 5 years ago, it was pretty ugly up there. And I encourage anybody to take a walk through that school today, during the day, while the school's in operation. It's unbelievable. The whole environment has changed. So a lot of good things are going on. Is it perfect yet? No. But I think we're taking the steps to get there. But we welcome any feedback. If you have other ideas about other groups that we don't even know about, we welcome this. We want to get the word out. We're also going to go on the radio. We're also talking about a political action committee, because we can't, as a Board of Ed or a town, go and buy advertising, okay? But a political action committee, you can ask for contributions to the PAC, and then the PAC can put ads in the paper, put ads in the radio, things like that. So we know we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. The question has to be moved, by the end of June, but that's our initial plan, initial phases. But again, the more minds on this, the better. If you have any ideas, we welcome.
So you're talking referendum May,
Yep. May, June.
the application filed in June.
Yep.
We get on the Board of Ed, we get on the State Board of Education list. Construction starts spring.
That would be
2000.
the building committee would probably answer that.
Probably 2014 spring, it takes about a year or so. We need to file what's called the EDs 49 by June 30th. It has to be, otherwise we lose potential to that 73% reimbursement rate.
The other reason I'm asking this is because this relates to the timing of our bonding and our bond anticipation notes. So that we're looking at this in terms of the timing of all these projects. I just want to have an idea in terms of what the financial impact would be, which we'll get into just a little bit. So, Bill, you're talking about shoveling in the ground spring 2014?
Yes.
Okay.
When's the town meeting?
Town meeting will be made.
I would suggest, and I make just a
Or
suggestion.
referendum would be made.
Definitely do it before the budget meeting, because I think it's going to confuse you. We're looking at the annual budget meeting, May, second week of May, something like that.
That's the plan, that's the plan for it to be.
I think that you should back it up until April, because I think you're going to run into some, it's going to start confusing issues. People are going to be listening about the budget. Oh, geez, my taxes going to go up. Even before we thinking about adding a new school. That's just a suggestion. And I think, just take it over. If you're going to do it before the annual budget, because I think if you do it before, in that budget, you're going to run into more problems. That's just the thought.
But our idea is to get a date so that when we are going to these community events, we say, hey, town meeting's going to be April whatever, and the referendum is going to be May 5th, or, we got to get out the vote.
Just correct me, Bill, after our meeting March 5th, next Tuesday, and they approve the plan, and the building committee moves forward with it, then the building committee can make a recommendation to the Board of Education to bring it to the selectmen to start the process. Is that a correct
The
statement?
board at their last meeting made their last approval that they have to go to get through. So they're good to go based on your recommendation that was brought forward.
Then it's just a matter of bringing it before the Board of Selectmen and moving it forward to our meeting. Yeah. What's the
One quick question about the school funding board.
The school funding.
Exactly. And, is there any danger at any point in time of that funding drying up before this project starts?
Well, I don't want to put that fear out there, but it's a very real and a very good question. We don't know, but if I was a betting man, which I actually am, if you look at the conditions the state's in, I think the reimbursement rates are going to get smaller rather than larger. The state's not sitting on a pile of money that they want to give away. The state's in trouble. So, I don't want to use it as a scare tactic or a sales tactic, but I really think that now is the time to do it. And I think the best deal is now, not in the future.
That issue came up at the steering committee meeting, and talking points. And one of those was timing, availability, and cost, and getting more bang for your buck. The most costly of the projects is the school. And if we don't get it this year, get the paperwork from the state in June, we're going to have a $1 billion shortfall already in the state. And we've already seen areas that municipalities are going to receive less. So you're not going to get any more. Most likely it's going to be less.
Construction, how long period?
24 to 30 months, and it has to do with the number of transitions that we have to do. We'll actually almost be going around the building, do a section, close that off, renovate it, move on. We may also need portables.
Would we be looking, maybe the best case scenario would be the school year starting 2016?
That's probably not a bad estimate. It's very hard to say. It could go very smoothly. Our architect has taken a very conservative view of things, and he looked at it as Murphy's Law. What will go wrong will go wrong. Having done this in a previous district, some buildings go really quickly and others you bog down. Hence the $2 million worth of contingency. You never want to have to come back.
The other reason I'm asking that is because, on a temporary basis, we'll be getting really good rates during that construction period. So,
but I think,
and then you make the determination when you go to your permanent funding, and that's when the impact is going to be in terms of the mill rate. So if we're looking school year 2016, and it's going to be somewhere in that vicinity in terms of that fiscal year for the permanent impact. Okay, thank you. Library, any idea?
Well, again, we'll be applying to the state library for our letter of intent, I believe, is in May, and then our plans would have to be submitted by September. And in November, they'll inform us as to how much money they're going to give us. Once they give us the money, we have 3 years to spend it, so that's good. Time-wise, I would say in the next 4 weeks, we'll identify the site that we want to move to and have it out quick. More intensive planning on that site. So that will essentially all be done by September deadline for the state. So we'd be ready to go to the referendum. During that period, we have with the architect 2 meetings that we do in the public comment, and we'll come to the body of this room and show the plans as of progress and invite the public to make comment on it and try to get them confused about what we're doing. So I guess we could go on referendum this summer. We were pushing it. I would like to see us in the ground in the spring of 2014. It's probably very optimistic.
How long is your construction period? Do you know?
1 year.
1 year? So if you're spring 2014, we're talking summer 2015 possibly? The next project, and again, a lot having to do with the town hall and the armory depends on these other projects, so I'll leave those off for now. But the Quinn of Art Regional Technology Park, as I mentioned earlier, we have the environmental impact evaluation going out for review and public comment. We hope to have a decision on that by the Office of Policy Management at the state body the end of May. That would allow us to start groundbreaking for these various projects during the summer. And the bridge is about a year time frame, and the Y is, I believe, a year time frame. So they were looking at August 2014. I think it's going to be out a little bit longer than that, but so we'd be looking at probably the fall of 2014 in terms of the
Breaking ground?
Opening. And again, probably the $3.5 million in terms of the tech park infrastructure development. Probably we would not start on that until we get the actual bridge constructed. You know, that we could get the bridge constructed and move along.
And what stand on that?
On which one?
On
The bridge, as I say, it's dependent on the environmental impact evaluation. So.
What can you say open 2014?
Well, the best case scenario for the bridge and the Y would be fall of 2014.
Is that to go to town meeting?
No, the bridge is all set.
This is all set, it's 3.5 million.
No, the 3.5 million. It's just 2.97.
That's for the infrastructure,
What is that?
water and sewer and natural gas.
How does that come to the town?
We have a little bit of timing based on the construction of the bridge. So
You got my head spinning there.
I know.
Water bed,
Yeah. Well, this is going to help you, you know.
And the regular budget.
This is going to help you in terms of that, so I'll pass this out now. If we're all set on the timing, any questions on the
I
timing?
just have that 3.5 million, I got a problem with that. Because the 3.5 million is going to be beyond the why. You know, the structure beyond the why, on private property. You know, until we get more information, now we're gonna spend 3.5 million on private property to put in infrastructure. We got a town hall that's falling apart. And I don't explain it.
Other towns committed yet.
No other towns are committed. We're getting to the why, there's no problem getting to the why.
I think
Yeah, well, that's just the
that's
way
what
I feel.
discussion is.
I think that it should be brought out in the open. We've got all these projects coming up. To me, the town hall is more important than that infrastructure on private property at this point.
Can I bring up something about the town hall and the library and also the armory? The town has had plans made at one point for a new town hall where all the Tar baseball park is. If you move the Tar baseball park down to where the armory is, level the armory building, put the ballpark down there, build a new town hall with a library at that location up there. What's the cost of that? You'd be killing like 3 birds with one stone. You gotta take care of your armory issue, the library, and the town hall, and a brand new facility up at the 3 roads of access where the Tar baseball park is now. There was already a set of plans for a town hall there, in the town hall, that haven't been brought out and looked at.
I think that's a question for the public facilities committee review.
But it hasn't been brought up. I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's been brought up.
It should be thrown out there.
It has been brought up.
And maybe we should have the plans here at the next meeting so people could look at it and maybe get a cost analysis of what it's going to be to do that project. Now you take care of 3 of those things in one shot.
In front of you, what you have is a,
One of those,
you're coming around, they get around.
Stop there.
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
I know Barney has new glasses, so he should be able to see that.
Pretty small. God, come on. Magnifying glasses look like this one.
Okay.
Could I make one comment on the town hall? It's my favorite topic. As of 2012, there were 2,548 requests for birth certificates for the town hall, which is pretty mind-boggling insofar as impact on our appearance to the rest of the areas we live in, Washington, Connecticut. So I understand the priorities, but I don't think we should disregard the importance of some look at the town hall insofar as our overall. The town is very attractive to outsiders. We're doing very well. We're going to be doing, obviously, I think the school is going to be a priority. But when you think that there were 2,548 requests for birth certificates for people who had to climb the stairs or not be able to park or whatever, and then go back to the surrounding community because they were born, you know, in State Kimball, then I don't think, it's not maybe a major priority, but I would hate to see us disregard the importance of that town hall and with our overall picture. So, you know, I just thought I had an interesting statistic that I picked up today and put it in perspective. And the first renovation project of the town hall started in 1970 with Mel Belden. So those of us 40 years ago, we've been talking about the town hall. So maybe we're not being, you know, too hasty about taking a look at the town.
the time has come.
Thank you. You're welcome. What you have in your hand is what has been provided by our town's financial advisor. We use Dick's Works, and it's Dennis Dix. And I asked him to run a scenario amortization schedule using $16.5 million of the town cost for the high school,
$4.5 million for the library, $3.5 million for the technology park, and then the combined, the total of $24.5 million. And basically what he recommends in terms of municipal financing is basically a level principal payment plan. And so you basically have level principal, and what you will see that you start out with higher interest cost at the beginning of the project, but as you go down through the 20 years of the project, you're reducing your interest payments to very little at the end. And what this gets you is that you're able to retire your debt during that 20-year period. So if you have more debt to bring on, then you're able to substitute newer debt for the debt that's being retired. So you'll notice that, and I've asked them to do it at 3%. That's a pretty good. We think that it's actually going to be lower. I think you're right that the rates now are in the 2 to 3% range, but right now, for the time in terms of discussion periods, we use the 3% interest rate. So you notice that based on that right now in 2014, and again, this will not be permanently financed in 2014, but the impact would be for the high school of 2.11 mil impact. For the library, it would be a little bit more than half a mil impact, and then for the technology part, a little less than half a mil, and then the total impact in the first year for the combined bonding, permanent bonding on all three projects would be a little bit more than 3 mil. And then as you go through in terms of keeping your principal basically level funded throughout the 20-year amortization schedule, then you get down to where you'd be reducing your interest costs to very little in the 20th year, and then also reducing your mill rate impact. Now there's all sorts of scenarios that we could be using here in terms of, we can even reduce the mill rate impact at the beginning, and then do something more in the middle. But there's certain scenarios that you can use. But for this scenario, we used it that it would be basically level funded principal payments, and then also the interest rate being reduced as you go through the 20-year amortization on these projects.
But remember also that we're using the referendum amount and not the bid amount.
That's correct.
Go out. So, like for the high school at 16.5, and we think when we go for bid, it might come in at 13.5. So there's a lot there, and then there's also the bonding rate we're using at 3.
I agree with you. You can't use that velocity at a town meeting.
No, I know that.
It's 16.5, but it may be. You got to
No, I understand that. I know that they need that for referendum. I'm just saying, taking that into consideration.
And does the board of ed have Plan B?
Yes.
Plan A goes down the toilet.
There is Plan B.
Okay.
But with this latest information that Mr. Cutler just presented, my whole presentation is now in ruins, because I use 3.5% debt service, which will now make my numbers look even better. So we will go back to the drawing board and revise that.
When you're ready to go to referendum, you'll have a more definitive number of 16.5 is basically probably going to be the number.
You tell me which number to use, the building committee, tell me which
We're
number
going
to
to
use.
16.5, we're going to 16.5, we're not going any lower, because of the, that's what the board really worked on, and over the past few months, it's the best committee I ever worked on. The committee did an excellent job of looking at all the scenarios, and the best scenario that fits it at this point is the one that the committee is bringing forward at 16.5. I don't think the committee should change it, or the school board. Give it to the people where it is. It's not a Band-Aid fix, it's the best fix for the best bucks at this time. So it depends what the people feel about it. It's up to you, the board, to bring it to the people and solve it to the people. The committee's job was to bring the best plan forward that would fit the Board of Education's need and the town needs for the future, and address the needs of the high school. And I think they did a good job on it. Not just because I want it, but I think they did a good job on it.
Does it make any sense, especially I guess it's the technology park, theoretically we're going to build a technology park, bringing new jobs and new revenue to the town. New revenue 5 or 6 or 7 years from now is going to make that look a lot different. So instead of starting it high at sort of a scary number of a 3%, a 3 mill rate, does it make sense to take a different approach, anticipating we're going to be filling up our new tech park, increasing the revenue, and that's going to be able to, sort of keep the number more reasonable looking up front?
We can run those types of scenarios. That would be helpful. The other thing that you should be aware of on the technology part, who brought up the fact about the 20 years. George, in terms of the 20 years, the school project has to go 20 years. I believe the library would have to go 20 years. The thing with the technology park is because you have sewer and water as part of the infrastructure, and if we're using USDA funds, we can go out as much as 40 years on that portion of that bonding package. So, we could extend the certain portion of the technology park bonding out another, what did I say, 20 years. So that could have an impact. The other thing that we're talking about in terms of the technology park is on those, you can do sewer and water line benefits assessment based on installing those utilities and the benefit of the tenants that come into the technology park. So that would also be used against the bond, the permanent bonding that you would have on the technology park. One of the other things we found out, the possibility is because the way that the road has been built, the current access road to the park, there might be very little that we actually have to do in terms of rebuilding that road or building a road to the technology park. So those numbers could be significantly lower in terms of the town share on the technology park infrastructure costs. But again, we sort of did this, I've asked them based on the worst case scenario that we would be looking at, so we did use the $3.5 million total over a 20-year period based on 3%. At our last meeting, I asked this question, and I'm not sure what the answer was, but I kind of agree with John and Barney. That $3.5 million, is that based on a 50% reimbursement from the state or a 75%? I remember you saying that's a 75% reimbursement. So that's if you get a partner.
That's where you get a partner.
Right. So I'm thinking we might be putting the cart before the horse. I'm thinking we get the partner, and then we know it's going to be 75%. If we ask the townspeople for the 3.5 and we don't have a partner,
no,
that 3.5 is not going to get us.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for your information, there's a meeting of the Council of Governors tomorrow. We're making a full presentation on the tech park.
And all you need is a 10% participation, right?
We just need one partner.
So one partner at 10%.
Yes.
So if you can't get that done.
Oh, sorry.
Would you be better off in the case where you're making a presentation on these to actually take the 40-year amortization on the technology part and then be able to fit in the town hall?
Well, that's what I want to know, your feelings today in terms of, I'm just going to go back and get the staff work done on this, so I need your guidance in terms of how we accomplish it. I think that leads us into our next steps here is what are our next steps in terms of as we move these projects forward. I think the Board of Education has a good plan in terms of going forward, and
we just need a date,
for
the town meeting and then the ultimate referendum.
And then the question is, among this group, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, Public Facilities Committee, as to the timing of some of these other issues, and the library.
I would like to see the public committee that's looking at all the buildings. Let's put the town hall in this package. I mean, this is, I myself, besides the school, the town hall is the worst building that we got in terms of age, just the upkeep. You want to take pictures of the school, of the town hall, I'll show you some real good pictures. So I think that the priority should be, this is just my personal opinion. The school's coming up, that's taken care of. The next priority should be the town hall. and a library after that. That's just my feeling on this.
The
Town
only-
hall's been here the longest.
The only variable on the town hall will obviously be if we get the school passed with this package, which includes moving the education office to the school, to the high school, then your footprint of the new town hall will be less, so you'll have a smaller building. If that doesn't pass, and we go to plan B, if you will, Tony, and take a few of those extras out, then you'd be looking at the town hall with the education office. So that's the only variable, but as soon as we get the referendum, we'll know that answer.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but I mean, I think all this has to be looked at. I think the biggest chance to fall is the circle. And that's going to determine where you go.
I agree, and I just think that if you want to include that, you could play with the amortization schedule where you can, and then you could, without affecting the overall mill rate, include the town hall.
I agree, but we still have no figures on where a town hall would be, and like I said, probably.
One of the,
That's really
Alan,
it.
I'll go to Alan first, but one of the things that we have done, as Alan has mentioned, we've had various committees that have met over the years, and I think we've come up with a footprint of the necessary space needs for the town hall. What if I took those numbers and I came up with a construction figure and then come back and...
That would be
a starting point.
That would be a fairly easy thing to do.
Because I think you're finding with the library, even if you build this new, the figures are going to be basically the
It's
same.
about $400 for the is pretty much.
When you build a new or
My
renovated
problem with
school.
this process has been, we've taken on we've had our architect take on the Armory site, which I think is great. And John brings up, the Owen field site, which is another great site, but we have to get our act together to determine where we're going. I don't want to spend any more money with our architect if I'm going to be jumping to another site. And the Armory site is very building specific, whereas the site at the end of the shopping center, I can take that building and put it up on its own park.
Right.
But the Armory is specific. That's
That's the specific cost for that.
And in our last meeting, we did have a slight conversation about does it make sense to do the library in the Armory, maybe an extension with the community center, and then the town hall, and have that be a campus down there. That to me can work. The ball fields can work, but we got to make a decision on where we're going to make this work. And I think having the library in the center of town is also still something that we would love to have, which the Armory doesn't follow. The Armory's a different animal. We're bringing the school system, I think, into some synergy with the library. But we can make a decision quickly.
It really would look good if you had the town hall and the library at Cos Field, and then eventually if you want to do even a community center, you could do it there. I mean, as far as traffic and exposure to the people, walking traffic and that kind of thing. The library, if you put it down by the Armory, is way off.
That's the pros and cons. We won't get as much walking traffic. We won't have the business community having the benefit of the library downtown. But the library being at the Armory also brings in a different component of the school system too. We can make that decision in 2 weeks. I meet with my architect and he'll give us plans of the Armory. At that point, I don't really know if I want, how do I focus him unless we know where we're going. And we can't make that decision if we're going to be throwing a third site and then a fourth site.
Did you get the plans that the town originally has for that town hall now and see if they can be adapted to that?
The town hall?
The town hall has, they have a set of plans now already.
Oh, for the Armory?
No. For the town hall to be at Owen Park.
Well, I think that's a separate building. Our building, I think the two buildings could be, I think one of the initial plans I've got currently could probably just be plopped in there right now. And then the town hall can be plopped there. Or whether or not you want to put the
alternatives that we came up with as one of the previous study committees, and both the library and the town hall were shown on that site. So there should be a set of plans for both of those in the town hall. Plus the numbers, I guess, is realistic.
No.
Well, I there's two things I need. One is, if that plan exists, I certainly have copies that show Stuart from our architectural firm, and we need a cross-section of whatever elevations, so it's what we
Just so everybody understands, our committee looked at the Armory for a town hall also. The idea was town hall, community center, and the library would fit in there very well. The idea was to build a new structure on the Brick Street side, attached to the building with a nice appearance, nice facade, and feeling there was room enough for all of those uses in the same area there. And we just kind of were on hold. We wanted to see what was going to happen with the high school for us. We've been kind of waiting and seeing where that all went. But as far as if anybody knows, I know it's a much smaller town, but what Canterbury did with theirs, they have the town hall on one side, library in the middle, community center on the other side. It seems to work very well. A lot of interaction with the seniors and the other events that happen in the librry. It's a
I was
nice.
just going to bring that up. I had never been to the Canterbury Town Hall. Last weekend I had a meeting there. And I walked in and was like, wow, what a neat idea. There is. You're in the right. You go to the town hall, straight ahead to the library, and then they had a meeting room to the left. I mean, it was like,
They use that room for all their planning and zoning meetings and what.
Well, Thompson has sort of a combination.
Just the town hall.
On this plan that was looked at or devised for the Owen Tarr Park, would be a complex, more or less. Was there a traffic impact study that was done with that?
we didn't get that.
Because if you're talking about putting all that traffic in that area, the community center, the library, and it's going to impact your traffic studies significantly, I would think. You know, and you have School Street there and widening 44.
Well, the other question would be, if you did it at the Armory, that's also going to impact Wickers. So,
Yeah.
you'd have to probably do it at both locations.
But you could always use the, what is it? Providence, not Providence Street, the Church Street, New Hampshire. But that's very heavily impacted at times with traffic flow. That's the only thing we thought of, against that plan, was the traffic flow from time to time, during the weekends, or at, when people get out of work or whatnot. That was the only, negative that was really cool.
Providence Street and, my office is there quite a while, Providence Street and School Street intersections are pretty heavily trafficked now. So, and you're kind of making that more of an epicenter. And it certainly could be done, but it would just have to have a good traffic impact study.
The other part of that study, when we looked at putting the town hall library on that site, was replacing those fields. And that was all factored into that. We looked at the property that we have off Sagan Street, which would be accessed from St. Green Hall Field with a bridge across Little River. So that was going to take place at the same time to replace the athletic fields. That way they're all the athletic fields in common.
Would be enough area to do it early on?
23 acres.
And what about the existing fields?
We make it be compliant, incorporate those.
Well, I think you're also, again, if we include the town hall in this budget figure, then that would have maybe a little economy of scale and have the library and town hall buildings to be in campus environment to be built at the same time. So there might be an economy there. It would be worthwhile.
I just think it's a good idea to tie both together, because just think of the people going to the town hall for birth certificates and stuff like that, that's going to draw more. And I think the shopping center is a good mix, but there's no regular parking. The building's outdated, just like the town hall. If you address all issues at once, it'd be great.
If you combine with that change any of the funding, up with the funding?
No, they still get their amount. So-
We're gonna go after this year, there's currently $5 million. That's gone, it's gone. And there's no indication that any other town in the area distress now, so you are, are right there for the money. So, but we don't get it, it'll disappear. So, by doing our application, finding a site we all agree on, and getting our application in by September, we'll secure $1 million.
Now, do you have to have a site, or do you just?
Yeah.
Site
A
plan.
site plan.
It has to be a specific site plan, and that money is tied to that site plan. You can't say, oh no, we want it every year, then you have to start from scratch.
Ed, in the back, had a
Does
comment?
anybody have a time frame of when they're gonna close the Congress Street Bridge?
Yes.
And that's not gonna be one-way traffic, it's no-way.
Yeah, that's going to be done probably next year.
Next year.
Next year. They're looking at next year's construction season. So there's going to be, basically it's going to be detours from Church Street to 3rd Street for vehicular traffic, Church Street to Providence Street and Kennedy Drive for truck traffic, and then Kennedy Drive. So, and that's going to be done hopefully pretty quickly. So do I have a consensus here that we're going to do, based on the study that had been done in the past, get the square footage for the town hall and do a budgetary figure in terms of the construction for the town hall based on the space needs survey that was done for the town hall?
Does it have any space needs? When was the space needs last time in that study?
That was done in that study.
So that would have to be,
And that's how that we came to the determination as to what the space was required on the Tar Park field.
Did it include Board of Ed offices?
It could include Board of Ed offices.
It did at that time. It did at that time. So
It was a 2-story town hall. It was a single-story library, single-story community room. They would all basically come together at a T. And there was the library was 12,000 square feet, I believe. That did not include community space. And then the town hall was approximately 20,000 with community space. So. And it shows the various parking considerations too. Don't forget you have Bowl Street, that could be in and out. You could have traffic coming in one way and then exiting out from Bowl Street. So.
there's 3 roads. Three roads.
Three roads.
So I would say the consensus here is that our committee should start to focus on getting some numbers and space needs for the town hall. Is that the correct assumption?
Okay.
And that's supposed to all be down the Marmaris area?
Well, again,
It's one or two.
I think you can do, I don't care about the park, I don't care about it, but, you're gonna take a lot of rec space away, you get the kids under the lights, they look forward to playing there, you're gonna take that away, you're gonna take the heart out of this community. And I think you're better off to go on the rec park, and maybe take the baseball field out of there, but that's the only thing we use it for, just about. And then build all your buildings right there, whether you knock down the armory or whatever you're gonna do, just build it right in that one spot, and you're gonna have 6, 7, 8 acres to build whatever you want.
The way it is.
You got the river, you got, I think it's a lot better.
I think Dick Lewis would look at Tar Park and use to see it for commercial purposes. And there we can fund all of our projects.
Considering shutting that down, you could always move those poles, the power, the lights, that could all be moved down here. You wouldn't just chop them down, throw them away. They could be moved here and one big sports facility down here. I wasn't considering getting rid of it at all, taking it away, putting it all closer to the schools.
I agree with you. And every great town has many parks, has several parks. Our town is sorely lacking in park space, whether it's for the youngest children, the school-age children, or the older children. That's a need in this town. I'd hate to see it go.
Okay, I think we have a plan. The school building committee has a pretty good, they're moving forward, and we have an idea in terms of the coming up with the specific timing issues for the referendum. The Facilities Committee is going to take a look at the various things necessary in terms of coming up with a figure for the town hall. And then we're talking about a campus setting for the town hall, library, and a community center, correct?
Sounds good, but we're gonna have to think, we have a lot of work to figure out now, especially with, seeing it in our architects.
If you do want to meet with us to talk about whether this joint project with the town hall, let us know. We'll meet together.
Yeah, no, we probably should have a joint meeting.
How soon should we bring this group back together?
Tomorrow.
2 weeks? A couple weeks.
But when we come back, other than what really will be the agenda and where we going?
We'll have the timing worked out for the school project.
Some of these things perhaps it's best dealt with one at a time. I mean, we have a meeting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on different things, but that school, which does a tremendous amount of work, to get that everything together, and then the thing we need to get, where do we go with the first one? Tonight we spent, half an hour talking about where we're going to put the library. We need to put it somewhere. But we don't know. We're putting now the library started off at 6:30 by itself somewhere. Now it's part of the town hall, maybe somewhere, and now it's part of the town hall and a room. Like going to a basketball court on the roof. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot to just keep tossing it around. I mean, pick on something.
Well, I think that the idea is at least we're moving, and I think we're trying to address all the issues at once.
Well, that's the problem.
Well, you can, then it's up to the community on what issues they want to address and how they want to address it. If they decide, if the committee decides that we want to tie the library in with the town hall and community center, and we want to fund the library first, and build it on that site, and then attach the town hall to a later date, that's something that can be looked at too. There's nothing wrong. Get a site where all these three buildings are being.
Well, the other thing that we're in the equation tonight is the Board of Ed being with the town hall now.
Yeah.
Now,
one thing I think that we should consider putting on our list
wait a minute.
What I was going to say is I think we ought to make another letter here and put an F down on it. Seems to me, and at least what I know about streets and roads, our maintenance budget is sorely lacking for highway maintenance within the town, whether it's bridges or paving surfaces. There's no way that we're going to be able to ignore that for many more years. We're going to need to bond, do some road resurfacing. The highway department is filling potholes in places that they've been filling potholes for 3 years. And it's just like not having a roof on a building. That needs to be addressed, because like anything else, if you don't, like not fixing the roof, pretty soon if you don't address this, it's going to be more and more expensive.
But you have to throw in there the sidewalks.
Yeah, I know you already started the work on those, but
yes,
just another thing for us to spend.
One good piece of news is you're always looking at where you're going to retire your debt. Well, we've got $120,000 coming off our books a year after next. So, not when you look at what we're going to be, the total project cost here, but at least, you can factor that in. Let's say the total amount was the $1.2 million. At least we have 120 that were retired. So. Okay, I think we'll have a steering committee group. Jamie?
Yep.
You're on it, right? Okay. Is there anybody I missed that
Am I on it or not?
You are on it.
Oh,
Okay. Didn't I send you the notice? I thought you said to reduce it.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Let's do a PowerPoint.
Yeah, we're going to be outvoted by the Board of Health. And the facility study's going to meet soon?
Yeah, we'll put out a.
And then, subject to those meetings, we'll recall this group to see where we are. That could be in a 2-week time frame or a 3-week time frame. Okay? Anything else before we leave? Thank you all for coming out.
3 weeks.